if I bleed tonight, if I am sad tonight, I don't have a job to find. And if I work tonight, if I'm so tired tonight, I fall asleep when I'm home. Just so far from here, focused on my own way, with a never looking back.
My peoples, what's happening? Well, I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend. I hope it was very eventful and you know, you had a good time. It's all good and fine and dandy. Well, I would like to welcome you guys to an episode of what I like to call Gun Day School. Basically, all this does is I figure out things to talk about that I run across throughout my daily meanderings, and I'll just talk about them. All right. So today's meandering, we're going to talk about muzzle devices. Now, this came about through a conversation I was having with a buddy of mine about, you know, various gun stuff, and we got on the subject of muzzle devices. And I kind of realized through conversation with him and people that kind of, you know, just started ear hustling the conversation and then trying to jump in like they knew it was up. There's a bit of confusion when it comes to muzzle devices. You know, we have words like compensator, words like break, you know, phrases like flash hider. And what happens is we get a lot of people who don't know the difference. And basically, I'm just trying to clarify this up a little bit because I don't want you, you know, I'm not saying you don't know the difference or not, but I don't want you to be that person that doesn't know the difference and you mess around and walk into a gun store and you asking for something thinking one thing, but you use a phrase or terminology that the owner or the employee knows about, and he ends up giving you the wrong thing that you asked for. Then you running around blaming him because, you know, your rifle is messed up or whatever. All right, so we're going to clarify this. All right, now, there are specifically in the realm of AR-15s, and it kind of transfers over into some other guns, some other platforms, things. There's specifically 3 types of muzzle devices. We have flash hiders, compensators, and muzzle brakes. Okay, now, there are those muzzle devices that claim to be a combination of all 3. There are muzzle devices that claim they can do what all 3 of those things do on an individual level. But, you know, that remains to be seen. Okay? You know, they say jack of all trades, master of none. So it's basically one of those pick your poison scenarios. All right. So we're going to jump into this right here. This right here is a variation of an A1 flash hider. This was the flash hider that came out in the back in the day, the 20-inch barrel M16 A1. Okay, this is, I call it the variation because this is what came off of the Ruger AR-556. All right, so notice how it has channeling and striations in it. All right, I'm gonna explain those right now. Okay, so say if we're looking at it from right here, just like this, and this whole circle part is cut out, this is what you're going to basically see. All right, we have the circle like so. All right, now because this is a front 5-prong channel, I'm going to go ahead and start marking these off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and here is the actual part of the muzzle where the bullet comes out of. All right, go like that. So what is the primary function of a flash hider? Well, basically what the name entails, it hides flash. Now, back in the day with the M16A1, it had a 20-inch barrel, and when it would shoot 5.56 NATO, the 20-inch barrel would burn off most of the unburnt powder that would use to shoot the projectile out of the muzzle. So mitigating the flash on that wasn't really a big deal because the unburnt powder would burn off before the bullet ever left the end of the muzzle. All right. Now, when the bullet leaves the muzzle, comes out, now that we have 16-inch barrels and carbine lean gas systems, there's going to be unburnt powder that comes out right behind the bullet. And once it hits that air, you'll see the big ball of fire. That's where you get that, come on, baby, light my fire. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you get that big ball of fire. Now, what this A1 flash hider is supposed to do, through a little bit of fluid dynamics, some chemistry, a little bit of physics of motion. Go ahead and explain that. Once it leaves out, what it does is the bullet is traveling so fast. All right, this is the physics of motion. The bullet is traveling so fast and it's spinning. So while it's traveling so fast and spinning, what it does is it has a lot of energy behind it through the powder, you know, primer getting punched by the pin, the powder ignites, it right behind the bullet comes shooting out. It's going so fast that it develops a lot of energy. And if you rework Einstein's theory of relativity, you know, energy equals mass times velocity squared. Okay, so if you rework it a little bit, you'll notice how, okay, it's moving so fast, it has a lot of energy, so therefore the mass is kind of increased on a relative level, relative with speed. And it's also spinning. Bullets don't come straight out. They come out spinning, okay? So with that spin, it generates somewhat of its own gravitational field. So once it leaves the muzzle, what happens is, going so fast with so much energy, and it's also spinning so fast, it starts actually drawing in air. Okay, we're going to use a different color to determine air. All right, it starts pulling in air from around. Like, there's air all around this. All right, that's the ambient air. Okay, I don't even know if you can see differentiation between color. You know what? We're gonna go with a different color because green and black often look alike. All right, so we're gonna go with red, and the red doesn't work. Isn't that lovely? So we're just gonna stick with green. All right, now once it travels out, it leaves out that gravitational field that it's now generating. It pulls the air in through those channels. Okay. Now what that does is, through a little bit of chemistry, I'm not even going to get into that because we'll be here all day with that. What that does is the air mixed with that unburnt powder that is now meeting the oxygen, it's supposed to mitigate the flash. And it does that very well. All right, it mitigates the flash while still allowing the bullet to go through. All right, so that's a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of fluid dynamics, a little bit of physics of motion for you right there. So that's how the flash hider works. The bullet leaves the hole. It draws in air through these channels. The air mixes with the unburnt powder. So once that unburnt powder following right behind the bullet, which is like in that split millisecond, it leaves the muzzle, it's supposed to mitigate the flash. Now, of course, that will depend on what type of round you're using, the grains, all kinds of crazy stuff like that, you know. So one shoe does not fit all when it comes to that. There are clean burning rounds. There are rounds that burn dirty. There are rounds that flash fire high, and there are rounds that flash low. So it depends on what you're using. But, you know, just for the sake of argument, we're using generic, standard, 100% everyday rounds and all that good stuff. All right. Now, some time passed, and the A2 flash hider, or the A1 flash hider, was replaced by the A2 flash hider. All right. Now, the difference, you see that? Look at that. Whereas the A1 is open on all ends, the A2 is closed. So what's that closing? What's that do? Okay, well, the primary function of this closing in, it still operates the same capacity as the A1 flash hider, but the primary function of this closing in is to not kick up dust when you're shooting in the prone. But that bottom end closed off also acts as a compensator, okay? Which compensators are muzzle devices that mitigate barrel rise or muzzle flip when you shoot. Okay, so take it like this. here's your rifle. All right. Don't clown my drawing. It's real quick, but I can draw. I'm just not doing it too well right now. There's your rifle. All right. Now, the zones of contact. I call zones of contact when it comes to when you're holding the rifle in the standard shooter's position. You have your hand on the pistol grip. You have your shoulder at the end of the buttstock. You have your cheek on the cheek well, and you have your non-firing hand somewhere in this area here. Okay? Notice how everything is either on the bottom and the back end. Okay? That every point of contact is on the bottom or the back end of the rifle. So when you pull the trigger and the bullet goes flying out, that violent recoil will take the path of least resistance, which will force your muzzle to go up. Okay? What compensators are supposed to do is to mitigate the muzzle flip, which means through action and reaction, it's going to attempt to force your muzzle back down. So, how does the A2 flash hider come into play with that? Well, this closed off end right here, this is what happens. When the bullet leaves the chamber, or the muzzle, you get that explosion at the top of all the unburnt gases and everything, and you know, the air coming in, that mixture we talked about with the A1. Think of it as a rocket ship. When a rocket goes into space, it shoots the thrusters, and the thrusters force it. Here's the thruster end right here. All right? It thrusts out, which will force your muzzle back down because it's pressing up against this solid part right there. All right? That closed off end at the bottom helps to mitigate muzzle flip. It's supposed to, while the gases and stuff are going out that way, the action and reaction of it is forcing it back down. So it's supposed to mitigate muzzle flip a little bit. All right. That's pretty much where that comes from. All right. Those are compensators. It's supposed to mitigate muzzle rise. And I just hit my camera. All right. Put it back. It's going to shake for a little while. Y'all bear with me. All right. It's supposed to mitigate muzzle rise. So to help you stay on target a little bit better. Now, this right here is a compensator that was designed by Primary Weapon System. This is the FS compensator in 5.56. This is what is actually going on Gene Simmons. This is what came off Gene Simmons, my Ruger AR 5.56. This is what came off Gene Simmons. This is what's going on Gene Simmons. Okay? You know, help a little bit better. Now, what this one is this is supposed to be a combination of flash hider, because it has the channels here, and compensator. Now, these open ends on the side will help to stabilize the left and right sway. But rifles don't necessarily go left and right. So while you're holding it there, it's still going to be able to at least attempt to be some sort of compensator for muzzle flip, which it actually does it pretty well. I'm not even going to front. It does mitigate muzzle flip pretty well. All right, but that's the design of it. This is one of those combination ones I was talking about. Now, another thing that you see, you probably won't be able to see it through the camera here, but there is actually a bit of a wall right on the end, at the end of the channel. There's a bit of a wall. Now, what that wall does, it also acts as a brake to help mitigate felt recoil. Now, this is a dedicated, designated muzzle brake. This is made by Strike Industries. This is what they call their cookie cutter, because it looks like a cookie at the top, and you can like stamp, you know, make some cookies with it and stuff. All right. Now, what makes that one special? Well, I'm about to show you. Muzzle brakes are primarily designed to mitigate felt recoil. Okay? where 5.56 has recoil, not as much as like a 50 cal BMG, but it does, you know, it helps to mitigate the recoil. What happens is the bullet travels through, it comes out. That explosion comes out of the sides here, but the explosion, because if you look, there are little tiny holes there as well. Now what those holes do is allow the explosion to escape out the front as well. But there's also a wall right there, all right? A very solid wall. What it does is, again, action and reaction. It comes out, and the gases and unburnt powder and all that energy and force, it'll push up against that wall. Now those holes are there to help mitigate it, to keep it moving, you know, because it's a lot easier to get a running start and hit something than it is to hit something from a standstill. So it's supposed to push against it, push against the hole or against that solid wall, forcing it to go this way, while the cycling action of the bolt carrier and the buffer spring all goes that way. So you have one force going this way, another force going that way. So what that does is it stretches out that energy, which is going to help limit the felt recoil that you have on your shoulder. All right. Now, there are other things you can do to help mitigate recoil, and we'll get into that later. But right now, we're just talking about muzzle devices. All right. So this is a brake. Okay. Now, that's how brakes go. All right. So let me go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a. All right, here's the muzzle brake. All right, say we cut it off and we just see here. All right, that's that wall I was talking about. That's where the bullet goes through. There's the other part of the wall, and you know, sort of like a cross. All right, this open end right here. All right, this part right here is this open end. So the bullet goes this way. All right, the gas is following right behind the bullet. So once it hits that end, it'll load up in that little chamber space, push against that metal wall like so. Okay? Now, once it goes through, what happens is you have the cycling rate of your bolt carrier and your buffer and everything's going that way. All right? With it pushing this way, it's supposed to kind of like pull the rifle a little bit away from you, so that way you don't feel the recoil as much. But at the same time, all the gases and everything are going to escape from the sides here. All right, and that will give you one hell of a shockwave, and it'll probably be one of those evil points where the people standing next to you are going to hate your guts, because that shockwave is not nice. It's violent as hell. All right. Now, there are different kinds of muzzle devices out there that are actually not really brakes, comps, or flash hiders. And in that instance, we have things like this. All right, this is a Novetzke KX5. Okay, all affectionately known as the Flaming Pig. You see? Got the pig. Pig is flaming. All right. This is what most would call a Krinkov style muzzle device, made famous by the boys over there at the AK-47 camp. All right, what happens with this one is it's actually just a tube. Inside the tube, this little piece right here comes off, has baffling on the inside. So what that baffling does is it directs all the sound, gas, energy, everything forward of you, so you don't get any of the sound, you don't feel any of the, you know, you don't get any of the sound or the gas or anything. It's all directed away from you. All right. Now, the drawback with this one is it doesn't do anything to help you with recoil. Okay. Like I said, the rocket scenario. If all the fire and sound and energy and gas and everything is going out that way, that means it's being forced back into you. So you're going to feel the recoil when it comes to KX5s, KX3s. But you're shooting a 5.56. Sometimes 2.23, so you shouldn't really be complaining. Now, what are some of the drawbacks of these muzzle devices? Well, the old A1 flash hider did nothing to help with muzzle rise. It also did nothing to help with sound. You know, it didn't do anything to help with felt recoil. All it did was 100% hide the flash. The A2 flash hider mitigated a little bit of the muzzle flip, hid the flash a little bit, still didn't do anything for sound, didn't do anything for recoil. This one, not necessarily does a lot for recoil, but it still does help with felt recoil a little bit right there. It does help you with muzzle flip because of all the material here. And it also helps you when it comes to sound. Well, not really sound, because you're still going to hear it like crazy. All right, so it really doesn't do too much. It does a little bit better than both of these combined. All right, so it does a little bit better than both of these combined. And, you know, as it stands, it's still pretty good. This one actually came in the, this is actually the stock muzzle device for the EF and SCAR. All right. This one, it helps with muzzle flip. It helps with felt recoil. It doesn't hide flash. And it is loud as hell. You will bust somebody's eardrum with this. I do not recommend muzzle brakes for CQB or in the house or anything like that. All right. What does this one do? Well, it keeps sound and everything away from you. Doesn't help with, it helps with muzzle flip. Doesn't help with felt recoil. In most instances, this would be ideal for CQB in the house, stuff like that, because it keeps the sound away from you. It keeps the sound from flying out to the sides. All right. Unlike this one, where the sound shockwave comes out and it'll just travel on down the firing line, so everybody's going to hear it. All right. So those are the different types of muzzle devices and muzzle brakes, or muzzle devices, compensators, brakes, flash hiders. So the question comes up, which is the best one? If money and time were no option, like you just unlimited money, unlimited time, the best muzzle device to go with would be a silencer, aka support the Hearing Protection Act. All right, the best muzzle device to go with would be a silencer. It helps with muzzle flip, it helps with sound, it limits the flash substantially, and in some instances, depending on what you're shooting, it will help with felt recoil. Okay, that is one thing that I'll go with. Now, in the instance that you don't have money or time, I tell people, until you do your research and you figure out what works for your setup, run with the A2 flash hider. Standard A2 flash hider. It works. It's been tried, tested, and proven for decades, and nobody has seemed to. I mean, let's get serious. That's the muzzle device that's ran on most primary military and law enforcement weapons. All right, so obviously he's doing something right. It's still rolling with them. All right, so, and plus it's only $5. Best bang for the buck right there. All right, you get a flash hider and you get something with a little bit of compensation to help with the muzzle flip for $5. All right, this one right here, these run about $100. And to be quite honest with you, these are some of the cheaper end muzzle devices, because I've seen some that run $300. All right, so do your research. Just don't walk into a store. You know, if you walk into a store asking for a muzzle brake and you're actually thinking about a muzzle compensator, something's, you know, and a guy gives you a muzzle brake and you aren't happy, man. I mean, that's what I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to help you, you know, differentiate between brakes, devices, brakes, flash hiders, and compensators. Okay, so to recap, flash hider hides the flash. The name says it all. All right. Compensators help with muzzle flip. All right. Brakes help with felt recoil. Okay. So if you walk into a gun store and you ask for a muzzle brake, he's going to assume you're looking for something to help with felt recoil. If you ask for a compensator, he's going to assume you're looking for something to help with muzzle flip and muzzle rise, all that good stuff. All right. Don't be like that guy that walks into the gun store and says every handgun is a freaking Glock. Hey, let me see that Glock right there. What Glock are you talking about, son? The 1934? What are you talking about? That Glock right there. Oh, you mean the Ruger American pistol? Son, that's not a Glock. Well, Glock is a gun, right? No, Glock is not just a gun. Glock is the name of a gun. These are all guns. All right, but you get the picture. So, once again, thank you guys for joining me for Gun Day School, and I will catch you cats on the flip side. Peace.